I can tell you that it was real disheartening to see. Only really because most of the people would not reach out to really see if you're doing good, if she was doing good. It was just disrespectful to see, and I understand at the same time you're losing tens of millions of dollars. There was a time where, when I was there, and we was going through some very extreme circumstances, I would try to lend and helping them fill that void properly so it don't affect the audience or the flow.
Wendy Williams' ex-husband, Kevin Hunter, has broken his silence in a sit-down interview with Gayle King. And that's a pretty big deal. The interview isn't just about him telling his side of the story. It's about everything that started falling apart: his marriage, his job, and his finances. And yeah, it's wild to admit that, because this guy used to be right at the center of Wendy's media empire. He was her manager, executive producer, and one of the main decision makers behind The Wendy Williams Show. But after the divorce, his life has changed a lot. Kevin has lost his job, his reputation has taken a serious hit, and multiple lawsuits have been filed on his name. But years after their very public split, Kevin is finally stepping in front of the camera. He's sitting down with Gayle King for his first real interview, and people are paying attention because there's still a lot of things that we don't know.
Kevin, so stupid. What a stupid gorilla.
All right, to understand Kevin's current situation, we have to go back to where the cracks first started to show, and those cracks became public long before the divorce papers were ever signed. The whole saga really began to unfold around 2017. This is when the long-standing rumors about Kevin's infidelity with a woman named Sharina Hudson started getting too loud to ignore.
I hired a PI to follow my husband, and this guy is telling me that Kevin is in Miami with the girl.
For years, it was a whisper in gossip columns. But by 2017, it was a full-blown scandal that put their 21-year marriage under trouble. This wasn't just a short mistake. It was a long-term affair that was happening right under the nose of one of television's most famous personalities. The situation reached a point of no return in 2019. This was the year Kevin's affair produced a child, a daughter named Journey. For Wendy, this was the ultimate betrayal. It was one thing to have rumors of an affair, but the birth of a child made it an undeniable reality that could no longer be hidden or managed behind the scenes.
Poke a hole in the condom and get pregnant. But that backfired on me, didn't it?
This was the catalyst that forced Wendy's hand. In April 2019, she officially filed for divorce. This was a massive step. After 2 decades together, a partnership that was personal and professional, it was over. Now, here is one of the most crucial details in this entire story. It was revealed that the couple did not have a prenuptial agreement. A prenup is a legal document that outlines how assets will be split in a divorce. But without one, everything they had built together during their 21-year marriage was considered marital property. This meant that the massive fortune, the production company, the houses, everything was now on the table to be divided.
You didn't think it would end, though, so...
Well, no, I didn't think it would end, first of all. And second of all, like, that does not introduce paperwork when you're in love with somebody.
This single fact raised the stakes of the divorce and set the stage for a massive financial fallout. The consequences of the divorce filing were extreme, especially for Kevin's career. The first domino to fall was his job. He was fired from his position as an executive producer on The Wendy Williams Show. Now, we have to understand, he wasn't just a regular employee. He had been there from the beginning, a key architect of the show's success and a major voice in its direction. This move wasn't just Wendy separating from her husband. It was the show's star and primary owner, cutting ties with a top executive. It was a clear and public statement that he was completely out of the picture, both personally and professionally. This stripped him of his daily influence, his professional identity, and, most importantly, his primary source of income.
Her 50th birthday party, he even brought her to that and lied and acted like she was just an assistant.
Despite losing his job, it initially seemed like Kevin was walking away in a very strong financial position. Thanks to that lack of a prenup, he received a massive divorce settlement. The number was a staggering $10 million payout. This was his share of the empire they had built together. On top of that lump sum, the court ordered Wendy to pay him an additional $250,000, specifically to secure new living arrangements. So, at that moment, Kevin Hunter was a multimillionaire, free from marriage, and ready to start a brand new life. With millions in the bank, it looked like he had successfully secured his future. But, as we're about to see, this massive payout was not the end of his financial story. In fact, it was just the beginning of a whole new set of problems that would soon begin to unfold.
Kevin was a serial cheater. Kevin had different mistresses depending on, the part of his life. This last one was the one that he had the longest term relationship with.
So, with a $10 million settlement in his pocket, Kevin Hunter set out to build a completely new life, far away from the New York media spotlight he had been a part of for so long. He, along with his new partner Sharina Hudson and their young daughter, relocated to Coral Springs, Florida. This was a clear attempt at a fresh start, a chance to rebrand himself as an entrepreneur in his own right. He wasn't just sitting on his money, he was actively trying to build a new business empire from scratch. He launched two main ventures, a barbershop called Headhunters and a new company, the Hunter Publishing Group. This was Kevin's chance to prove he could be a successful businessman without the massive platform of the Wendy Williams show behind him. He was trying to establish a new identity. His new family was also part of this entrepreneurial effort, with Sharina starting her own online business as a vegan chef. For a while, it seemed like this new chapter was taking shape. He had his new family, new businesses, and was living in sunny Florida. From the outside, it looked like he had successfully navigated his public divorce and landed firmly on his feet. But a massive, unforeseen event was about to happen in Wendy's life that would send shockwaves directly into Kevin's new world and expose the financial stability he thought he had.
Former talk show host Wendy Williams has been diagnosed with a form of dementia as well as aphasia, her team announced today. The 59-year-old went through tests last year after her memory started to fail and she began to lose words.
I immediately noticed that she was having trouble finding the right words to fit what she really wanted to say. These are also early signs of PPA, primary progressive aphasia. It didn't appear as if she had problems with short-term memory.
This is the major turning point in the story. In May of 2022, news broke that Wendy Williams had been deemed an incapacitated person by her bank, Wells Fargo. The bank argued that she was not capable of managing her own multi-million-dollar fortune, and a court stepped in to place her under a financial guardianship. This meant that Wendy lost all control over her money. A court-appointed guardian now managed every single dollar, every payment, and every asset. For Kevin, this was a major development. The consequence was that both he and their son, Kevin Jr., were completely cut off from Wendy's payroll. Whatever financial arrangements or support they were receiving directly from her accounts were immediately halted by the new guardianship. The tap was turned off overnight. This led to the biggest blow of all. A crucial part of their divorce agreement was that Kevin was to receive ongoing alimony payments. This was separate from the one-time $10 million payout and was intended to provide a steady stream of income.
You will not get away with trying to pull off having two families, you dirty, low-down dog.
When the guardianship took over and the payments stopped, Kevin went to court to have them reinstated. But in February 2023, his request was denied. And the reason for the denial is the detail that changed everything for him. The court ruled that the alimony payments were dependent on Wendy's employment and her ability to earn income from her show. Because the Wendy Williams show had been canceled, the legal agreement stated that the obligation to pay him alimony was also terminated. That regular income he was depending on was gone, permanently. The fine print in the divorce settlement, which linked his payments to a show that no longer existed.
Kevin cheated on me while I was pregnant with my son. And I found out, and I could have divorced him then, but I said, no, I have a son and I'm not gonna have any more children because I don't wanna test the blessing.
So now we're at a point where the alimony has been shut off permanently and the payroll from Wendy is gone. Kevin Hunter's financial situation has become critical. And this is where we see him shift from trying to build a new life to actively fighting to survive financially. His first major move was to take the producers of The Wendy Williams Show to court. In March of 2022, even before the final ruling on his alimony, He filed a massive lawsuit seeking at least $7 million for wrongful termination. His argument was that he was fired without any valid reason. He wasn't just Wendy's husband. He was an integral part of the show's success, and his dismissal was a direct result of the marital problems spilling into the business, which he felt entitled him to compensation.
Wendy Williams' ex-husband, Kelvin Hunter, is seeking at least $7 million in a lawsuit against the Wendy Williams show's production company, Debmar Mercury. He claims that in April of 2019, after Wendy filed for divorce, he received a letter from Debmar Mercury that stated he was terminated. The letter read in part, "Effective immediately, your role as the executive producer of the Wendy Williams show is terminated, and your professional relationship with Debmar Mercury is also concluded."
This lawsuit was a huge gamble. It was his attempt to go after the entity he helped create, claiming he was unfairly pushed out. He was trying to secure another massive payout, likely seeing the writing on the wall with the alimony payments being in trouble due to Wendy's show ending. This legal battle represented his effort to find an alternative source of income, a way to replace the money that was rapidly disappearing. But legal battles are expensive, and they take time, and his financial pressures were rising in the here and now. The most important evidence of his downward trend came in July of 2023. This is when Kevin was forced to put the Florida home he shared with Sharina and their daughter up for sale. This wasn't a simple relocation. The reports explicitly stated that the sale was a direct result of his financial situation. The very home that was supposed to be the foundation of his new life, his fresh start, was now being sold off to generate cash. This is a huge illustration of how serious his money problems had become. The millions from the initial settlement were clearly not enough to sustain him without the steady stream of alimony he had counted on.
So Wendy Williams claimed that Kevin Hunter kept her cooped up like a show pony during the relationship. Kevin says Wendy was just too lazy and she chose her own schedule.
It's also impossible to talk about Kevin's struggles without acknowledging the tragic context of what's been happening with Wendy herself. All of this is happening while Wendy is facing her own health crises. She has been in and out of rehab facilities to combat alcohol abuse, and as we discussed, her health issues are what led to the financial guardianship in the first place. The situation has become so alarming that their own son, Kevin Jr., has publicly expressed grave concerns for his mother's well-being. He has voiced fears not just about her health, but also about the motives of the new team of people who are now managing her life and her finances. He's worried that she is being exploited.
As long as she has people around who are yes people, the same thing is always going to occur where she would ultimately just find any excuse to be by herself so she can get back to drinking.
This adds another layer of helplessness to the situation for Kevin and his son. The matriarch of their family is unwell, and her entire fortune is controlled by third parties. And that brings us to the dark reality of their situation. Both Kevin Hunter and his son remain completely and totally cut off from Wendy's finances. That guardianship is like a fortress, and they are on the outside with no access. So when you piece it all together, the lawsuit, the sale of his home, the loss of alimony, it paints a clear picture of a man whose financial world has completely collapsed. But the story doesn't end there. Just when it seemed like Kevin Hunter's fate was sealed, a new chapter is about to be written.
Wendy Williams' ex-husband, Kevin Hunter, baby, he said what? He said he is planning a tell-all interview with Gayle King. Now they're saying, y'all, it looks like Wendy's ex-husband, honey, is ready to tell his side of the story. Now the Jasmine brand exclusively, y'all, reports that the media manager is currently prepping y'all for a sit-down interview.
After years of near-total silence, Kevin Hunter is preparing to break his silence in the biggest way possible. According to reports, he is set to sit down for a major televised tell-all interview with Gayle King. This isn't just a rumor. It's a calculated move from a man who has been a ghost since his life publicly imploded in 2019. Let's consider the significance of this. For years, the only narrative has been the one pieced together from tabloid reports and court documents. The story of him fathering a child with another woman while still married, the dramatic divorce, and the professional fallout. It all played out while he remained quiet. Now, he's choosing to speak, and his choice of interviewer is extremely strategic. Gayle King is renowned for her empathetic approach. She's not known for softball questions. This signals that Kevin is preparing for a serious, in-depth conversation that will cover everything: the collapse of his marriage to Wendy, the public disgrace he endured, and the ongoing legal and financial battles that have defined his life since the split. The timing of this reported interview is important. It comes as his financial condition has reached a critical point. We know he was forced to sell his Florida home, and court records detail a growing list of unresolved debts and lawsuits from creditors. This interview could be an attempt to reclaim his own narrative before it's too late. Is he seeking public sympathy? Or is he trying to apply public pressure in his ongoing lawsuit against Debmar Mercury, the production company behind The Wendy Williams Show? In that lawsuit, he claims his firing was an unjust reaction to the scandal, not a reflection of his job performance, and that it violated their business agreements. This interview would be the ultimate platform for him to argue his case in the court of public opinion, portraying himself as a wronged business partner.
The conversation haven't been disclosed. They say Kevin may have plenty to address, including Wendy's ongoing conservatorship battle and his own legal woes.
What makes this situation even more complex, and honestly, more tragic, is that he is choosing to speak out while Wendy Williams is silenced. She remains under a court-ordered guardianship due to her health issues and unable to manage her own finances. This creates a powerful and unsettling dynamic. Kevin Hunter will have the opportunity to share his unfiltered side of the story, while the other person is unable to respond or defend herself. For longtime viewers who watch their empire rise and fall, this interview could be a seismic event. It promises to throw light on years of betrayal, collapse, and silence, and could fundamentally reshape the public's understanding of what really happened behind the scenes of one of television's most iconic shows.
The only business that he can manage right now is to sign some divorce papers.
So, to put it all together, the story of Kevin Hunter's struggle comes down to a perfect storm of events. It started with the end of his 21-year marriage, which led to the immediate loss of his powerful and high-paying job as an executive producer. While the initial $10 million settlement seemed like a strong foundation, his financial security was ultimately shattered when the ongoing alimony payments were terminated. This happened because they were tied to a show that no longer exists, and Wendy's own health issues led to a financial guardianship that cut him off completely. What followed has been a series of desperate legal and financial battles, from suing for wrongful termination to selling off his family home just to make ends meet. But do y'all think Kevin Hunter is a victim of circumstance, caught in the fallout of his ex-wife's tragic situation? Or are his struggles ultimately the result of his own actions? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.